Okay, this next concept is Triad Arpeggios. If you have the Hard Rock Rhythm Survival Guide, there is a lengthy exposition in that course about triads and their power on the neck, and how, just like we've been looking at with position scales and 3-note per string scales, you're identifying, where the notes are on the neck, making sure you're in the right key, making sure that what you're doing as a lead player is tied in to what your rhythm section is doing. So we're doing a lot of neck knowledge stuff, and this is part of that. So arpeggios, in the simplest form, it's the root, the third, and the fifth of a chord. So if I'm in C major, that's a C, E, and G, root 3, 5. Okay? Now, there are, just like we looked at with the scales, different ways of fingering that. If I start with my pinky, I get one shape. If I start with my second finger, I get another. If I start with my first finger, I get another. Okay? And beyond that, you've also got, what is the chord type? This is major. Minor is with a flat 3. Diminished is with a flat 3 and a flat 5. And augmented is with a major third and a raised 5th. And you got all 3 fingerings for all of those, right? Etc., etc., etc. I mean, it goes on forever. You can do them across all string sets. Limitless possibilities. There's also the inversions. You could start on the root, the third, and the fifth. For these triads, you can do that on each fingering. So on and so forth. So many different things. Let's talk about application. Some of this stuff is really useful. Little shapes that you can get to on just 2 strings are phenomenally useful. So if we're just looking at C major, like this one, not too terribly useful. This one, pretty useful. This one, very useful. Okay, it's off of shapes like this that you can develop parts. Mark Knopfler, not that it's hard rock, but it's amazing guitar playing. That whole thing in Sultans of Swing, that's all just 2-string arpeggio patterns. A lot of bands like Iron Maiden, all these guys using these little 2-string shapes to create really cool parts that follow the chords that's going on underneath them. Another thing to think about with this concept is, applications of other players like Ritchie Blackmore in Burn and other cases. He does little 3-string shapes. So on and so forth, for bringing in a little bit of that classical vibe that we heard, Yngwie Malmsteen and a lot of the other neoclassical guys get to. So how to practice this, like if you want to get in control of it, you basically need to go through the inversions just like I did in the rhythm guide with the triad exercise. You can do the triad arpeggios everywhere on the neck, but a couple of basic examples are just to do inversions on a 3-string shape. Like on the top 3 strings, you'd have this. And on the 2-string shapes, and then you can combine the 2 of those. So you start getting little systems that connect the triad shapes to each other. You You can also practice them in progression. So let's say you have something like A minor, G, F. And I could play this, I have an A minor, G, F. So and then you can explore that in other shapes, you know. And, you know, explore patterns and so on. And, you know, this is the kind of stuff that you saw, you know, like come out, you know, at its outset here in the demonstration zone, it sounds a little bit Hotel California-ish, but really you're moving ahead into, you know, Maiden, and then what the guys in Avenged Sevenfold are doing is all about this. You see those guys, you know, routinely popping out the shapes, you know, their progressions are built in ways that create lots of diversity. You know, they're always working they're working the little E major to A minor resolutions. All that kind of stuff. You see it in a lot of the modern bands. So definitely worth spending some time on, and just like everything else that I've talked about, you know, you could go really deep on this, or we could just pick up some basic stuff that you're going to see in the performance example. I just want you to know where it's all coming from, so that you understand, like, you know, if there's something in a performance example that you're just like, man, I have no idea, you know, where to start with that. Well, here's where you start. You do a bunch of arpeggio practice and you get it together. So have some fun with it.